Just take us back to when you and Margaret Atwood first met. You're 16, I think? Is
yeah,
that right?
it was in the 60s, in 1960 actually. I don't know, how old was I? Let me just think, 1942 to 19, I was 17 and she was going to be 20. It was at a summer camp near Haliburton, Ontario called Camp White Pine, where sun will always shine, as it said in the song. Sure, sure. She was Peggy Nature. She ran a little nature hut, which was just an old shack full of specimens of wiggly creatures and worms and frogs and toads and whatever. And she would sort of demonstrate in front of the squeamish kids what these creatures were and identify them. And she called me over one day. She was Peggy Nature and I was Charlie ANC. That stood for Arts and Crafts. I worked in the craft shop. And she called me over one day as she would typically do, like this. The kids were sitting at her feet and she pulled out a toad and asked me to stroke it in front of the kids to prove I wouldn't get warts. And the rest is history. I stroked it, I don't think I got warts, and the rest was history. I was fascinated by her from day one.
What do you think was you two have been close for a long time, and it was a very provocative, productive relationship.
She was incredibly supportive of every creative instinct that I had. I would come to her with sad stories of high school teachers who were giving me a hard time. Miss Hudgens at Vaughan Road Collegiate, who gave me D- in art.
A little shout out there.
Yeah. And Margaret, Peggy, would say, never mind, someday you'll be painting God's murals in the sky and she'll be roasting in hell. I mean, this at age 16 and 20, right, or 17 and 20. She just was incredibly generous with her time for me, with her ideas. We riffed back and forth with everything. This was before computers. We would sit at our little Royal typewriters poking away at all these letters. When we finished at camp, she was completing her BA at U of T at Vic, and I was just starting at UC. But we corresponded constantly. She then went out to Edmonton. I went to Cranbrook Academy of Art for my master's degree.
Were you friends back in Toronto, or was it just a
yes.
summer?
No, absolutely.
Was it just a summer camp
No,
relationship?
after that time, I met her family. We were all family to each other. She met my family.
Did you live in the same neighborhood? She's in Leaside.
No, she was Leaside, and we were on the wrong side of Bathurst Street in York Township, even though we were 1 minute from Forest Hill Collegiate. I had to walk all the way to Vaughan Road, which was like a 2-mile walk, because in those years everything was set up differently. But no, we stayed friends through U of T, through school. We corresponded all the time. And to be brutally honest about this, we were very different people then than we are now. It was a more, what would the word be? It was an innocent kind of childlike relationship where we depended on each other for moral support about the creative ups and downs of having chosen the lives that we did. But from day one, she was always there for me. I remember her writing me from Harvard, and these letters are now in the U of T library, about how she'd shown some of my prints to her friends from South Carolina, and she said, you get 5 gold stars, they just fell in love with your work, and da-da-da-da-da. And then she started sending me her poetry, which just blew me away. I knew that there was genius here.